Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn. And joining me today is Phil Brown from Beyond the Pitch. How's it going, Phil?
Doing good, mate. How you?
Not too bad, all things considered. I'm a bit groggy and tired because I've just been away doing the tour of the Johan Cruyff Arena
Mm,
this week, so that was very interesting. Um, Up on the bit outside the dressing rooms at the Johan Cruyff Arena. They have photos on the wall of all the players that have played 100 times or more for Ajax. I noticed there was quite a few United players on the wall. Mazarahi, Onana, Delict, and Martinez were all there. So yeah, so I learned a few things that I didn't already know. It's a fabulous stadium. Um, but I just want to start off by talking about Kath, the
mm.
famous United receptionist who has sadly passed away at the age of 85. And she was the first point of contact for every person that came through the door at Carrington. She had occupied several rows at United since 1968. So it's been a sad couple of days, hasn't it, Phil?
Very much so. When you talk about football clubs and you talk about the heart and soul of football clubs, these are the people you're talking about. You're talking about the tea ladies. You're talking about people on reception that, they're the first point of contact when someone comes into a football club or any business, and it tells you an awful lot about that business. And their personality is something that you have to work in that position. And these local communities are filled with people like this that all any business we all Kath will remind you of all of our grandmothers, just incredible human being that loved the football club. And this is part of what we talk about, Kyle, when we say football clubs grew from the grassroots up. They're not strictly a business. They're still rooted in their communities. And this is what we're talking about, because this is what forms the heart and soul of football clubs, is people like Kath, and there'll be other people like Kath inside United, and all football clubs up across the country that everyone has positive stories to tell you about.
Yeah, absolutely. She must be, or must have been, the longest serving employee at Manchester United, I would imagine. Can't imagine
Think about
anyone
the
would have been
stories
there
that
longer.
think about the stories that woman could tell you, the things that she's seen, the players that have walked in and out of there. Some of the greatest footballers in the world, some of the most successful and renowned footballers in the world, all know have a relationship with her. And I think, like I was saying, there, she reminds you a lot of our grandmothers. For players too, you're surrounded by all these, sycophants and all these enablers and all these, yes man. But doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter what status you have, and someone that is just a regular, warm human being that you know brings that motherly love to people, which you can see. Was looking at pictures of Van Persie, listening to stories from Schmeichel and other people, and that's what kept coming through to me, was just her authenticity and how much they appreciated someone like that. That most likely would have reminded them of someone in their own lives that they grew up with. That is still very important in life. No matter where you go, you still need that authentic love.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's great to see all the tributes from
Mhm.
current players and former players alike. So back to matters on the pitch. United played Arsenal at the Emirates on Wednesday night, and as expected, we didn't get the result. I thought this would. uh, it's important to point out that Arsenal's project, they're now more than 5 years in. We are just 4 games in. So I was not expecting miracles in this game. But we didn't concede from open play. We conceded from 2 corners, and as everybody knows, I think Arsenal have scored from 22 corners since the beginning of last season. Um, and everybody seemed to struggle against their deliveries, and the big men attack the ball. The either Rice or Saka, they drop the ball in right on top of the goalkeeper, and the big men attack it, and it pays dividends for them. But United, as everybody's pointed out, didn't have much of an attacking threat. The forwards were starved of service, And yeah, we had Dallo had a chance which he put wide in the first half, and then Delict had the header, which was well saved by Raya. But United didn't create much, and
Yeah.
fairly even first half. But the second half, Arsenal obviously upped it a bit, and were deserved winners in the end. But there's definitely a few positives. One of them being that Yaro made his debut and looked quite impressive in that cameo, Phil.
Yeah, I thought he was a positive. Thought he came in, played really well. For a young kid to play that well at all, in your Premier League debut is hard. To do it after you've been out for months is even harder. But look, there's two ways of looking at the fact United conceded 2 goals from set pieces. There's the positive side of saying, okay, they didn't concede from open play. Well, they lost the game here last season as a result of a corner. You know, the 97th minute, was it? Back post from Declan Rice. The third goal came obviously as a result of the second. And United had a significant period under Ten Hag when they were really poor defending set pieces, where they would concede a lot of goals. And this was something that was extremely prevalent at the start of Ten Hag's second season. And, so it's frustrating, that type of corner is, you could say, genius in its simplicity. You'll see that in every Sunday league ground up and down the country. To me, if that ball is swung in the 6-yard box between the sticks, that has to be Onana's ball. He's the only person that can use his hands. He will be heavily protected by the referee if he's impeded. He's the one with the physical advantage and anatomical advantage. And to me, I think something falling in that area. I want my keeper to claim it. I think the first goal comes as a result of a striker marking someone he shouldn't be marking. When a striker defends, they get half-hearted defending because they don't want to defend. But Kel, once the ball leaves the ground, it's a 50-50 ball, and I want my defenders to get on the end of that. So disappointing in that sense, but for Amorim, he's not in a position where he can be judged by results yet. I mean, he will be in the long term, but in the immediate, there's so many other things that he has to perfect. He won't have had a lot of time to work on what those set pieces and defending them because he's trying to perfect the system. So if United are still conceding these goals 6 months from now, then I would be concerned. But yeah, look, they have a problem with the front three when they're losing in games, especially away from home. They drop really deep, so everything is in defeat. Both goals came from wingers giving the ball away in positions you don't want them to get the ball in. So, so to me, Amorim still has a major issue with trying to get all three lines of the football team synchronized with each other and to where they are an actual threat. I mean, they were more of a threat last season than they were this season.
Yeah, that's true because last season we were actually 2-1 up at one stage before the goal was chalked off for a minimal offside goal, and then Arsenal then scored from a corner soon after, which was devastating for United fans that day. That's 4 straight defeats against Arsenal, unfortunately, which is the first time that's happened in the Premier League era. But we know where we are. We are a team who's 13th in the league. They're a team who's been challenged for the title in each of the last 3 seasons. So we're playing them away from home. I just thought this would come too soon for Amorim's United. I didn't think we'd get anything from this game, but at least we didn't get battered off the pitch, and there are some positives to take away from it. And it was Delict said himself after the game that we could get, and the manager has said this as well, that we could get results by being pragmatic, but we'd just be in the same position 12 months from now. So this period is all about adapting to the new manager's approach, and as the manager says, we're going to suffer a little, but it will pay dividends in the long run.
Oh,
And
on that, Arsenal were pragmatic the weekend or Wednesday, right? We can win this game ugly. So you can have a balance between pragmatism and still reinforcing your ideas. The thing is, you cannot perfect a system when you're losing, right? Because in order to perfect the system, players have to have confidence. When players are losing and there's no confidence, they change their decision making changes because they start playing safe. So you can. This is one of the reasons why Ten Hag had an identity in his first season, but that fell apart. Second and third, you can't. When you're losing, you will not get a style of play. You will not get an identity. You have to have both. So to get that system perfected, United are going to need to win games because players have to trust it, and how they execute within that system is going to depend on how productive it is and players' confidence. So you can't lose and try to implement the system and the playing style. It won't work. So he has to make sure that yes, you can lose a game, but it can't be 2, 3 games because it's simply impossible. So what he was saying about overthinking, this is exactly what happens if you're doing any skill and it's not providing a dividend. You're going to start to lose belief that that ever will or that you can do it. You have to do it from a position of confidence. So you still need to win games.
Yeah, after that result against Arsenal, we need to go and beat Nottingham Forest now, and we need to get a positive result against Manchester City next weekend as well. And we can't keep losing games. We need to get points on the board. We are 13th after all, and the manager knows that he will be judged on results. He's not gonna.
Yeah, he will be judged. You're absolutely right. Everyone is, but yeah, you're right. And United have to get to a position where they're embarrassed to lose. And they're not there yet, but that's what Amorim has to bring to United. I mean, I have to say, I don't think Amorim's been particularly helped right now by the owners of the football club. But I think they they need to have a proper diagnostics of the football club and understand the implications of their decisions and the reaction to that will be. And I don't think they've appraised that properly, which gives me a slight bit of concern because tells me that any of us don't fully appreciate the size of Manchester United and the consequences of the decisions. But I don't think he needed a protest in his first home game.
Yeah, so we'll get to that at the end of the show.
Yeah.
At the moment, I want to talk about the constant rotation, and I understand that there's now been 6 changes from game to game. I expect more of the same tomorrow because obviously there's 9 games I think in December,
Mm.
3 days between games, and certain players like Fernandez, Mazrahi, and the goalkeeper obviously they have good fitness records, so they maintain their place. But other players have bad fitness records, or they're only coming back from injury, so he has to look after these players and not overuse them too early. And you won't see like Mason Mount play 2 games in a row at the moment. Yeah, Lenny Yarrow likewise, and Maguire as well. And he's rotating the forwards quite a bit too. Um, and what I want to see by the time we play Arsenal in the FA Cup third round at the Emirates is an established 11. Now, what Amorim has said today is that he is close to deciding who his best 11 is. So that's good news. But tomorrow I expect more rotation. I would expect the team that battered Everton 4-0. I would say you probably see close to that 11 tomorrow at home to Forest. But I do want to see an established 11 within the next few weeks, Phil.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have to get to me an established 8 or 9. It's very rare that managers are fortunate enough to pick the same 11. And when you say what's the strongest 11, to me, the answer to that is depends who we're playing. Because there depends what 11, that I need to pick for this particular game. And if you know your strongest 11 every single week, I would be concerned about that because that would tell me that your players on the bench are not a threat to the players on the pitch. So you need to have, okay, I know my best 8 or 9, but there's still a few places every week that's up for grabs. That's healthy. But I agree that he needs to have, I mean, to get all the things that we're talking about, style of play, all that, you have to have consistency in the lineup. And eventually he's going to have that. If we're leaving players out because they don't have the physical capability, players in their prime and stuff, to play 3 games in a week, that would concern me. Why is a 21-year-old not able to play 3 games in a week? It's 3 games of football. I understand they're intense, but Saturday is a relatively typical calendar for a footballer, and there are many footballers who are ever present. So it would concern me if we're having to rotate 21-year-olds because they can't stand up to the rigors of professional football.
Yeah, Hoyland has picked up quite a few injuries already in his short career at United, and he's been rotated in and out quite a bit. And so he's been very very careful with certain players. Um, yeah, and one thing I wanted to touch on as well is that Amad Diallo was absolutely sensational against Everton, as he has been pretty much since Van Nistelrooy took interim charge. And I wanted to see him start at the Emirates. I thought he might not because it was because of the rotational policy, and he played against Everton. But to me, he's our best attacking player at the moment, and if we're playing one of the best teams in the league, he should be an automatic selection. And I thought he was brilliant again when he came on at the Emirates. So he's someone I want to see play in the vast majority of games. I don't want him playing one in every 2 games. I want to see him play 90% of games. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you want those types of players. Ahmad's very important in a team that doesn't have a lot of chemistry, that's going to cut you open through transitions because they need individual quality to create and create things out of nothing, force mistakes, or get players isolated one on one. Ahmad come on second half, Sinchenko got booked because he'll beat you, he'll take you on, he creates things out of nothing. He is a very very good footballer, very different to United's other forwards. But I mean, this is part of the issue. Hoyland scores 2 goals, is left out. Xerxes scores 2 goals, is left out. Rashford scores 2 goals, is left out. That's just not sustainable. I mean, at some point you have to reward that, and I can assure you the players will tolerate that type of rotation on the short term, but on the long term, they're not going to like it. And I understand why Amorim's doing it. He's trying to obviously address the issues that plagued Ten Hag's tenure. It was
Mm.
with obviously injuries and other things. But eventually he's going to have to settle on a strongest set 8 or 9, and I don't know, because even to me the rotation has become unpredictable, where the rotation was supposed to be unpredictable, but now you can see the patterns to it. Okay, now I know you're going to be left out because you played here, and so you can start to prepare for that.
Yeah, because every player who has scored has not started the next match. I've never heard of such a policy, but yeah, it can only last a short time, and he needs to play a more consistent team. So hopefully that comes sooner rather than later. So Nottingham Forest tomorrow. Um, they've had a fairly decent season. I think they were third at one point. They've went to Anfield and won. The only team to beat Liverpool this season in the league. Um, and but that being said, I think they've lost 3 of their last 4 matches. I didn't think they'd be able to sustain top 4 form for the whole season. But they're a very good side and well capable of beating United on their day. And we're all aware of the talents of Anthony Alanga, Morgan Gibbs White, and of the lad from Chelsea who plays for them now. He's a very good player as well.
Well,
Uh,
off the
and all,
street.
yeah, and Chris Wood has had a great season up front. So yeah, I think it'll be a tough game, but United have to get 3 points here at home to Forest because, as you say, we need to get points on the board, and the manager needs to get results, even at this early stage because we are 13th in the league, and
Yeah,
that's
they
not
have to.
good enough for United.
No, nowhere near good enough, and it's been mediocre, and everything about United says mediocrity. Um, these are the games they have to win. No disrespect to Forest, decent team. On any given day they're capable of going and beating anyone. We know that, but United need. This is what I was saying. They can't lose 2 or even draw. They have to go out, play with intensity, and win the game, and give themselves, do what they did against Everton. Go on the front foot. Score. Don't be satisfied with one goal or 2-0. Go for the third or fourth. I'm not saying that's what you need to beat Forest by to be acceptable, but I want to see that type of intent in the performance, and they need to play with confidence that Nottingham Forest are not going to come to Old Trafford and win. And like I was saying earlier, be embarrassed to lose. So this is a game where they it's a consequential defeat or it's a consequential victory. They have to believe they're playing for something. At 13th, it's unacceptable. But top four is not impossible if you put a run together. It's not a million miles away. They have to look at Forest and say this is vital for our recovery. The January transfer window is a month away. I don't think it'll be that busy. I think obviously they have to look at the left back situation, which is a real issue. But for other players, it's like there's a whole different threshold now United that gets you, out to get you sold than at any other time before. So these players have to be thinking my future's on the line here too. It's and there's still a lot of places that are up for grabs in that team that I couldn't tell you what Amorim thinks his best lineup is. But the only players that can answer that question, only people that can answer that question are the players themselves. They decide who the best 11 is. And if I'm a United player, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I'm in it. They need to win this game. There's no any other result than a win is a massive disappointment.
Definitely. I think Ahmad will start this game, and that always gives me confidence. So I want to talk about Xerxes, who might start this game as well.
Mm.
Uh, the last time we were on, we had quite a robust debate about Xerxes.
Mm.
But the good news is that he scored twice against Everton, and that will do wonders for his confidence. So all of a sudden, I'm I'm not putting my head in my hands when I see his name on the team sheet. Uh, it's amazing what one game can do. But, I thought not just the goals against Everton, but some of the creative play from him was tremendous. So I hope he can keep that going in the game tomorrow if he plays. Um, because clearly there's a reason why he was in Serie A Team of the Season, which he just picked up that award. So um, some positivity from Xerxes recently, then Phil.
The first two games that I'd seen him play for United was a different player than what I saw previously to the two goals he just scored. You can see confidence was a factor for him. Obviously, the turmoil over Ten Hag won't have helped him. United's a lonely place to be when you're not playing well and you're a forward and not scoring goals. You feel that criticism. That'll be the first time he's ever experienced that in his career at a big football club with that type of pressure and that type of focus and criticism. None of this would have mattered or even been mentioned if United were winning games of football. It would have been accepted that it's first 6 months is not easy to settle into a football club. It takes time. Um, I was in complete agreement with Amorim saying that there needs to be more of an intent and desire to get in the box, and that to me was something that was obvious about Xerxes immediately. Was this is a guy, big language striker, technically very good, but not someone that's got that goal scoring bloodlust, that hunger. And he's happy just to sit off the front. If a chance comes, great. If not, he's okay too. You can't, if you're going to occupy a central position at United, you have to score goals. So I've been saying this forever. It doesn't matter who it is. So, the two goals that he got, two good goals. And I did see more of an intensity and an intent in his game to get in the box. And look, there's a good footballer in there, no, undoubtedly. But it's about confidence. It's about playing in a team that can get a striker into the game. I mean, if United had had the best striker in the world on Wednesday, they wouldn't have scored because no opportunities being created. So sometimes it's United's lack of goals. It's not always about the lack of quality up front, but the lack of creativity in the team, especially away from home.
Yeah, definitely. The United were very ruthless against Everton. In fact, because they only had 5 shots on target and they scored 4 goals. I want to see that kind of efficiency on a regular basis. But yeah, I want to talk about Malasia, who surprisingly started at the Emirates despite only playing 45 minutes in the last year and a half. Um, how do you think he performed, and do you think he can become the regular left wing back for United? I don't think so. I don't think he'll be anything more than a rotational option, because I think we'll sign someone in that position. And obviously, Luke Shaw has had another major setback with a hamstring injury, and I'm starting to think that Luke Shaw could be looking at an early retirement, which is very, very unfortunate. So, what's your thoughts on all that, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, look, United are playing Malacia in this position because there's such a dearth of options, and because it adds such a difference to the team and the balance. There's two positions United can't get injuries in, and that's left centre back and left back. Because they don't have an alternative. You can get injuries at right back, right centre back, and find right footers in the football club that can take that role and do it to a decent level. But left footers, different. And not having a left footed left back or even a left footed centre back, the difference is enormous. So those are the two positions United can't get injuries in. Um, with Malacia, yeah, I thought he did all right at Arsenal. His athleticism isn't there. It's not easy being on the left and having Saka run at you. Um, he got booked, and I can understand why Amorim took him off. But it is something you just have to address with Luke. I feel sorry for him. None of this is his fault. And as I said on Twitter before, look, when players are chronically injured, doesn't matter who it is, they become embarrassed by their injuries. This is a very I don't want to say alpha male environment, but it's very competitive environment, and men lose their masculinity when their body's constantly breaking down. So there's the mental anguish, there's the embarrassment angle, and it affects your sense of identity. Then when you start recovering, you don't tell the physio or the doctors that you're feeling a tweak here, a twinge there, because you're embarrassed. So you play through these minor little issues and exacerbate them. And this happens a lot when players are coming back. It's, people forget the extent of the injury that Luke suffered in, PSV. It was horrendous. And I feel sorry for him. None of this is his fault. But it's a decision that, only he can make. I mean, it's a big decision to retire. It's a big decision at his age. And I don't think it should be pushed upon him or should be an expectation, because we have no idea what it would be like to be in that position. But the left back position is something United absolutely have to address.
100%. And he wouldn't be the first United player to retire early due to injury problems. Some like Norman Whiteside, Rame Moses. You remember those players from the 1980s, Phil? I wouldn't remember that, but
I
those are
remember
great players.
well.
Those are great players that unfortunately had to retire early as well. So it's this has happened to many footballers, but it's also happened at United a few times also. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. But I mean, he only made 3 sub appearances, and he has another separate injury again. So the longer this keeps happening, then the more likely it is that he's going to have to retire at the age of 30. I think he's 30 in July. So uh, but in terms of United going forward, we do absolutely need to sign a player in that position. The dream signing that everyone's been talking about is Alfonso Davis. But I've heard some conflicting reports. Some saying that he's now close to signing a new contract with Bayern, and others saying that United are going to have talks with him in January, because
Mhm.
he's allowed to talk to foreign clubs in January because his contract's running down. But there are other options in that position, of course, as well. Not least Alvaro Fernandez at Benfica. Of course, he's a former
Mhm.
United player, and United can send him back on the cheap. So if Amram's a fan of him, we could get him in January for about 16.7 million. I know United have also looked at the Bournemouth the left back as well.
Yes.
So it's definitely something we need to address urgently, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Kirk is going to cost a lot of money. Bournemouth have a bigger budget than AC Milan. Brilliant football club. and they're not letting their left back leave in January for a cut price. They like Ignuri at Wolves, and they might need to sell. Definitely will in the summer. It looks like they will go down. Obviously, Alfonso Davis is another one, very very good player. Um, Ten Hag once famously said couldn't defend, but and he ended up being exceptional, like 4-3 game. But yeah, look, these are to me, Alfonso Davis is the one that you would take. Young, Alvaro Fernandez, good young player, had it, but he's was been Benfica a year, 6 months. So a year was it a year? So he needs that time to continue to develop, and it's not. I mean, Portuguese league can be hit or miss. You can get a Darwin Nunez, for a lot of money, or João Felix for a lot of money, or you can get many of the great players that have come from Portuguese football. You can get a Cristiano Ronaldo, just depends. So I would be surprised if United went in for Alvaro Fernandez right now. And I think, is he that much better than Malacia? I don't know. If he did come, would he be the starting fullback? I don't know. And I think Alfonso Davis undoubtedly would be the starting fullback, and you need quality in that position. So I think he would be the obvious one.
Yeah, hopefully we can get that done. Of course, we beat Real Madrid to the signing of Yoro, so hopefully we can do that again with Alfonso Davis. Do you think United will sign Gyökeres in the summer?
I mean, I don't really understand why this is a discussion at the minute because, like I just said, if they had Erling Haaland available, say the best striker in the world against Arsenal, how many goals would Haaland have scored? Zero, right? Do you think Gyökeres is better than Haaland? Probably not. Maybe a different striker, but name me any striker you would pick in the world that would have been scoring against Arsenal. Not many. This is the reason. The real issue is: are we creating chances that a top class striker, will be putting away? You never have a problem in that the way the front three works. Garnacho wants to pass as the last option, not the first. His first instinct is, how can I get the goal and score? So in some ways, he's competing with Hoyland or whoever plays centrally because they're not looking to play off each other. Ahmad, someone that's going to beat a player and look to create. And so you don't really have a synchronized front three. So you essentially have two players competing for the same ball because Garnacho is right-footed. He checks back on his right foot. He cuts in his right foot, and as soon as he does, he's in exactly the same place as your central striker, and and he doesn't want to pass. I mean, what game was it? I think it was Ipswich. He's straight through, delays a pass because he's trying to get across the defender so he can get in on goal. And I think it was Rashford was running right through with him, wide open, delays the pass, and then when he realizes when he gets to the edge of the box that he's not going to beat the defender, then he tries to cross it, but it's too late. So you heard Amorim talk about this on Wednesday with Martinelli and Saka. They put balls in the box. It doesn't have to be successful, but it creates danger, it creates panic, and it makes teams much more defensively minded and aware. They take less risks. So this is something United have to get from their front three: is how do we get these front three working together? York and Cole work together as a tandem. How do we get these front three working together? Because that to me is the real issue.
Yeah, although earlier in the season we were creating a lot of chances but missing most of them.
Mm.
That was definitely an issue as well. Uh,
There
but
was a small period where like 3 games or XG was up there, but West Ham, to create chances, but look at those chances. Okay, $1 should take it easily, but most of those chances weren't falling to central strikers.
yeah, why do big chances keep falling to Dallo?
Well, because
Uh,
Well, under Ten Hag, he was making when he was an inverted fullback. When United would attack, he'd come from the fullback right through midfield up front. When the balls would get pinged over the top, and it's really hard to track that run. So you can do that, but the problem is if you give the ball away, you're caught out. And this is one thing I don't understand with United against Arsenal. They're playing everything into feet on the edge of their own half for 10 yards inside their own half, and Arsenal are on a high line. I don't understand why they aren't putting the ball into the channels when you have pace. Put Arsenal defenders on the back foot and try to exploit those spaces. You play everything into feet, then Hoyland's got to hold it up. Garnacho's got to hold it up. Garnacho loses the ball because he plays it in the feet for the first corner. Marcus Rashford's on the edge of Arsenal byline. When you're 1-0 down, why is he there? And forwards don't do anything ugly. They want to chip the ball and kick it up. They don't. It's just betrayal of their instincts. And so to me, it's like, this is the real challenge that Amorim has. Amorim could have the best front three players in the world, but if they don't know how to bring them into a game of football and how to get them work together, then you're essentially attacking as three individuals, and you need brilliance every time.
Here's an observation which I have made, and I really hope I'm wrong about this. But with playing a left wing back, that player is obviously the one who's out wide, who's providing the width. That means Garnacho plays more in the middle of the pitch, and I don't think that suits his game. Um, I'm starting to think that Garnacho's not going to fit into this system. Would I really hope I'm wrong, because he's such a talented player, and you want to see him succeed at United. But I'm starting to think that he doesn't really fit into Amorim's system. What do you
I don't
think,
know.
Phil?
I mean, if you look at his stats, his goals and assists, he's got better stats this season than Mbappe, which is unbelievable to me. So he's a very talented young kid. I remember when Ronaldo was 20, and his decision making naturally wasn't great, and in many ways, United took out a lot of um the flamboyancy from his game over when he over elaborated, when it made him a machine, when they cut out all the nonsense and said, look, you can be selfless and be more selfish, because when you're selfish and you're trying to skip past this player and do 3-step overs, the problem is that you can be selfish by cutting all that out, being direct and being effective with your skill set. Young Garnacho still hasn't got that part down yet. So, in some sense, you can commend him for the fact that even though he misses chances, he's still brave enough to keep taking them. That is, commendable in your character. But the problem is, for me, I think it would be very frustrating for the other players to play with him, because you those misses are costly. They were costly at West Ham. They were costly at Palace. He's still a very young player, and these are moments where we talk about that pragmatism, where Amorim is like, "Hey, do you remember the clip that was circulating with Ten Hag when Noah Lang, when he was shouting to Noah Lang, 'Hey Noah, it's not just your game; it's our game too.'" Similar thing with Garnacho is you still got to learn that this is not just your game; it's a team game, and this is very common in young players. But I rate him very highly, and I think he's adaptable, and I think that we still don't know exactly what his position will be. I imagine it'll stay as a wide player, but he's a very talented kid.
But do you think that playing as one of the two tens really suits his game?
Um, yeah, so that's a good question. I don't know if he does play 2 10s. Because they're almost two 9.5s. Because Bruno is he's to me the obvious 10. And if you look at the other two forwards, depends who it is. Rashford plays high. And sorry, it's just someone text me. Uh, sorry, man. But yeah, Rashford plays high, and the other forward, if you listen to what Amorim was saying about Xerxes, he wants them in the box too, so he wants them high. So sort of nines and a halves.
Yeah, I would like to see him out wide, but he's not going to play as a wing back unless he wants to defend, and he doesn't give me the impression of someone who wants to defend. Ahmad is definitely okay with that, but I
That's
don't
the
think it.
problem with them playing out wide, is it comes with defensive responsibilities. And Ken, first of all, it's not just forwards that don't want to defend, it's defenders don't want to defend. You put a kid on the field, right? And when someone's learning how to play football, their first instinct is always get the ball and go score. That's where all the glory is. And it's really hard to teach young kids as they grow that you can sacrifice yourself for the team. See, defending is all about sacrifice. Goal scoring is all about individual glory. So when you're asking someone, go back and clear this ball, be crude, just launch it. Okay, it's not going to make the headache really. It's not going to get me a ballon d'or. It's not something I really want to do. So you can teach players how to do it, but even goalkeepers, defenders are all frustrated forwards. Bart has wanted to be wanted to play out. Now all these goalkeepers have exceptional feet. They can play out. Look at Onana. He wants to be a sweeper. Defenders, they want to go up and attack. They want to score goals too. This is so teaching people how to defend. You tell everything about a team how they defend because that is where commitment lies. How you attack tells you nothing because attacking is about individual glory. So defending is not an easy thing to teach instinctively.
Yeah, unless you're Italian. Yeah, I remember when I was growing up, they said on Football Focus or whatever that everybody in every young kid in England or Brazil wants to be a striker, whereas every young kid in Italy wants to be a defender.
Yeah, but even that, name me in the current era three good Italian defenders.
I probably couldn't, to be honest.
Okay, so when you have to go back to Baresi, Maldini, Chiellini, players that of a previous generation, that Catenaccio, that was something that Italy prided themselves on. But even then, they still had world class midfielders and forwards. But yes, there's a cultural influence in some of it too, of course. But you know, it's go go coach kids at 6, 7 years of age. How many of them want to be a goalkeeper and how many want to be a defender? And the answer is none. Or very
Yeah,
very few. It's rare.
Rio Ferdinand springs to mind. I seen a highlight one of his goals against Liverpool recently, where I think it comes from a set piece, second ball, and he takes it down with his right, and then he lashes it in with his left into the top corner, and then the commentator says Rio Ferdinand always fancied himself as a bit of a striker, and he shows it there.
This is always the
Yeah,
case.
but yeah, he liked the glory as well, even though he was a
Everyone,
defender.
mate. Everyone wants to score. The most beautiful, satisfying thing in football is to put the ball in the net. So to teach a kid to go on a field and sacrifice for a collective goal and not be the person that gets the glory, that's hard. Especially when you have parents on the sideline incentivizing their kids. Hey, I'll give you a fiver if you score. I mean, it's like everything's geared towards individual reward at the expense of the team. That's how you're incentivized as a young kid. And I think some of that is healthy because the individual does need to develop. We're losing individuals in football. I mean,
That's,
the Ballon d'Or list of players that were compared to 10 years ago, it's
yeah,
frightening.
yeah.
So, in some sense, you do need to prioritize the individual, but to teach a kid to exhibit certain characteristics that that are about sacrifice, that are about for a collective goal. That's fucking hard, man. I'm telling you.
That's why it was so impressive watching Messi pressing and chasing back for Barcelona in his prime,
Yeah.
because he don't have to do that, but it was coached into him by Guardiola, obviously.
Well,
Um,
the thing, so on that, I don't know if you can coach it. I think it's something that's
yeah,
intrinsic. I don't know how to coach any certain human behavior. It's just about an alignment of a personality characteristics and the right environment, the right sport, the right incentives. Oh, there's just a lot of things that have to align for that to happen. As a coach, you all I can really do, I can give you things that can help improve you as a footballer technically, but you nurture a personality that says, look, I don't want you to curate a personality that is in fear because you fear retribution if you make a mistake. Make mistakes. There's no consequence. There's no criticism. It's about learning. And once a child doesn't feel like they have to modify their behavior to be accepted a certain way, then you see all of their characteristics come out. And that's really all a coach can do is like bring all of yourself. Be yourself. Trust exactly who you are. Don't modify yourself to fit in or to press this. Just it's okay. You have agency. You have to impress yourself before you impress anyone else. And then when you see that those characteristics emerge, that's intrinsic. Coaches, I mean, all we can really do is provide an environment where it's safe for them to be that person.
yeah. So it was definitely commendable to Messi that he was willing to work hard for the team, and that was obviously a reflection of his personality. But another player who played in Spain, Musa Ozil, was just not interested in defending at all, and it didn't matter who was coaching him; that was not going to change. And a lot of players are the same, so
Yeah.
it's just about personality, really,
A
as
lot
you
of players
said.
you don't want defending, mate. A lot of players I don't want defending. Cantona didn't like defending either. I remember him clearing one off the line once. But
That's a
George,
very obscure memory.
I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, I think it was against Chelsea in the cup semi-final actually. And 96 or something, 97. I'll have to text my friend Craig Birdie and ask him because I know he played in it and I like to remind him. Um, but no. I think it was Chelsea in the semi final. But no, I mean, bad example here. I was a forward. Fuck, I hated defending, right? Even if I won the header from a corner, right? To me, so what? I headed it away. I want the ball to be around, ping in the back and that. Everyone jumping on me, thinking I'm great. It's very hard. I'm telling you, this is. See, when Jack Charlton died, I was listening to some of the appraisals on him as a footballer, and this is something that I stress so many times to people. Jack Charlton was genius in his simplicity. He didn't over elaborate. He was a defender that would hit you. He knew he wasn't fucking Baresi. Get the ball, boom, 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 boom. Doesn't call it in possession. Does the very simple things well. There's a massive market for that footballer. Everyone wants their kid to be this technical genius, this. But if your
Yeah,
kid is competitive, has beat good fundamentals, and is willing to be simple and release the ball quickly in defense, those
yeah,
kids are diamonds.
yeah. To use a Cantona quote, the water carrier. I think
Yeah,
that's
like, it
what you described Deschamps as. Do you
doesn't
think?
matter though. That's a big thing. And it's
Yeah,
massively underappreciated because it's not cosmetic. When you talk about what makes teams win, that is the yin yang to the genius. Someone has to shovel the shit for this breakaway. And those people, the people that clean the shit up that you don't see, those people are gold dust.
so is Manuel Ugarte that person for Man United?
He's supposed to be. You know whether that actually happens or not, I don't know. The jury's still out there. I think he's a talented player. I don't agree that some people have been really bad or whatever. I haven't seen a game where he's been really bad. Maybe one, I can't remember. Where
I
else was
think
like he was poor. But I think it was the Spurs game, where the first goal at Van de Ven, ran 70 yards. Okay, I think it was his first Premier League debut. I think he played the week before that and as a sub. But anyway, we'll see. I mean, I'm quite optimistic about him. I think he hasn't done anything yet that's concerned me. Where it's like, okay, I think it's hard in that midfield, especially with the midfield two, with Bruno supposed to be the other six. It requires you to be very fit and you cover a lot of ground. But yeah, I'm optimistic about him.
Yeah, I think him and Manu should
Yeah,
play most of the games together. I know Manu was suspended midweek, and he'll come back in against Forest, and as will Licha Martinez. Um, but yeah, I think the Spurs game might have been his first Premier League start. He
yeah, it was
struggled
his
in that
first
game,
year start.
but ever since the Fenerbahce game, which he was excellent in, I think he's been pretty good for United, and he probably has another couple of gears to go up.
Yeah, he
So
needs
yeah,
to play, and there's been a lot of international breaks the first part of the season, and he's going off to Uruguay and playing every minute in those games in South America. So when he comes back from them, he's usually sub in that game. Um, and so it's been a weird season so far that we're in December, and we've just played a third of the games.
yeah. So I just want to finish on a topic that I didn't really want to be discussing,
Okay.
um, and that is that Jim Radcliffe is now charging £66 for kids
Yeah.
to go watch Manchester United. It's an absolute disgrace, isn't it, Phil?
It certainly is. It's unacceptable, and what this was something that Jim Ratcliffe promised wouldn't happen. And to me, there's no plausible deniability that he misread the situation. He's not stupid. I'm sure he would have been advised on this. And look, to me, there's this is a two-part problem. One, what's the point of having a fans forum that Omar Barada has claimed that he will consult with fans before these types of decisions are made in the future, and then doesn't? I mean, it totally undermines the whole concept. And then this is, this is really one issue in relation to many. The newspapers reported. I don't know if this is true or not, but this seems like something United would refute if it wasn't. That Ferguson had to step in to stop Radcliffe repealing all the concessions given to the Munich families, Busby Babe families, what have you. And if you're going to run a football club where the only way to make a profit is to gut everything that's symbolic about the football club, that its culture, its identity, things that transcend its monetary value, then what are you left with? I mean, do you really want a Manchester United that's profitable, but the local fans can't go to the game? Because we aren't local fans, Ken. But so much of what we love about Manchester United, we owe to local fans. I mean, when fans are coming from the US, part of the reason why they're going is for the experience and the atmosphere. That requires the local fan base to have access to Old Trafford. And talking about cutting the disabled supporters budget from 40 grand to 20, I mean, that's a fucking disgrace. Like, what really? What's the dividend of saving that 20 grand? To me, like, there are some things that uh, are they are with Manchester United, they're indivisible. You cannot have a Manchester United without this. This is not a franchise, and it's not a business. It has a business element to it, but in business, if you're going to up your price in the market, that is something that has to be analogous with you having a better product as a consequence of having a better product on the market. You can't just turn around and go, you know what? I know you're buying this for $20 or £20 yesterday. Now you're going to pay 40. Why? Why would I have any loyalty to your brand? Because you have to, in the raw pursuit of profit, it's about your product on the market, creating demand and making sure people feel like there's value for money. And football doesn't work on any of these premises. It's a complete exploitation of people's love for something that isn't transactional and knowing that love can be exploited. and football fans need to recognize that their collective voice and their that their shared interests are going to require that they cooperate with each other. We can still keep our tribal loyalties or our tribal divisions, but if they don't amalgamate and have this collective voice, then that football is going to keep exploiting that division. There's a lot of. But you look at Germany. Germany's done it impeccably.
Yeah, as Thomas Taylor says here, maybe tell the Glazers that they have to pay for their own private jets. That's one way to save money.
Brought it up in my podcast the other day. I said, look, think about the money that the Glazers charged United for their private jets to go to cup finals. I mean, there's some balls going to the women's cup final. And not to mention all the litany of ancillary costs that they applied United during this sale process, which were about the Glazers, self enrichment that were not a necessity for the club. This was, the club essentially paid for their listing, paid for their legal fees, paid for Rain, group paid their commission. I mean, it's total scandal.
Yeah, and slashing the Sale Supporters Group their budget from 40 grand to 20 grand. What really is that going to save Manchester United? It's not going to be worth the reputational damage. It just makes absolutely zero sense to me.
So this is what
Um,
I mean about does Amarim need this right now? Does Amarim need a protest at United's first game of the season or his first home game of the season? I mean, it's just these are all the things that a board that has should have diversity viewpoint, but also has the ability to where their advice is taken seriously. Anyone with any professional foresight would have been able to predict this is what will happen if you do this. And does Amarim really need this at his first game? And do you really want to nullify any equity you have with fans? Because that's what he's doing. And this is going to put Ineos in a whole different position where their tolerance for error is going to completely change. One where fans were understanding and patient because they trusted their motives and incentives are now returning back to a place of suspicion and where there's rightfully seeing the cynicism in this and saying if this was solely a Glazer decision, Old Trafford would have been filled with protests at the last weekend against Everton. And but this is one quick way to destroy your equity, and then ask yourself another question and say maybe nobody did advise that this was going to happen, which makes me question their expertise. Anyone, with any sense of professionalism, of expertise that could appraise the situation, which we would need enormous foresight to do, would have known that this was, this was going to happen. And it makes me
yeah,
wonder: do they have? Why did they miss this?
yeah. To me, there was no way this was an Omar Barada decision. This was very much a Jim
No,
Radcliffe decision.
yeah. But Barada has to take responsibility. I mean, we're saying that, but I agree with you. But if Omar Barada is going to go back to the next fans forum and say, look, you know what, I know I'm the CEO, but ultimately Jim's going to make decisions no matter what I say, no matter what I do. And if I can't keep promises I'm making to fans on fans forum about consultation, about dialogue, because Jim Radcliffe's going to do this, then you're meaningless, you're worthless. The only promise you can keep is one that aligns with Jim's interests. So you're just a messenger. You have no ability to enforce anything. And then, to me, like that's a big problem.
Definitely is. But okay, Phil, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for coming on as
Thank
always.
you for having me. As always, have a great weekend. I hope you need to get a win and stay away from browsers.
Please, everybody, smash the like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and get more of your comments in. And I shall see you again then, Phil. All right, guys. Thanks for listening as always. And I'll be back on Monday with another show with Brushy. See you later.